our friend Jared Greenberg. Jared, good morning.
Morant just told me something that's troubling me, and I didn't get a chance to ask him about it, to follow up on it.
That could be one of a million things, but what did he tell you?
He said that the only thing on TV on Tuesday nights is he watches the games I do, and he watches This Is Us. I want to know which one he cries more watching.
Morant?
Definitely Jared on the sideline.
Yeah.
It's been an unemotional season of This Is Us.
No, that's not the show is based around drawing at your emotions, making you cry.
Not this season, Jared. Not this season. You in Boston, that's more tearful.
That's a good point.
It's amazing how much time Morant has to watch TV. He consumes so much television. He watches entire seasons in one clip, plus he watches old Giants games from 2006. It's amazing how much content he consumes.
Hey, give him credit. We need the ratings, so we need the help, right?
So, what'd you think about LeBron getting a little testy last night in the face of the criticism that he's too chummy with players?
It's interesting because we actually had the Bucks last week in Toronto, and one of the pieces of conversation we had during our game was just about how Giannis is such an old school player. I got to be honest, I'm kind of torn on this. And DA, you know me, I don't like riding the fence on any subject, but I think that we're in a new age where, and it has nothing to do with being soft or being mean-spirited or more competitive or whatever it is. I just think and this is kind of an easy answer to give, that nowadays guys grow up together, and you can grow up in New York and California and still play each other a couple of times a year because you're on the AAU circuit, or because recruiting is for college is so public and so visible now, that guys just happen to know each other more than they did 30 or 40 years ago when they were growing up. And I talk to a lot of former NBA players who say that they had heard of guy, Joe Smith or whoever, but they never actually met him until they were, going ready for the jump ball circle, playing for the first time in the NBA together. So I just think it's a matter of circumstance and the time of the era we're in. I don't think it makes anybody soft or anything.
Well, when it comes to that Giannis critique by James Harden, I found this interesting because almost everybody applauds Giannis for being this kind of self-made superstar that works as hard as anybody and has elevated his game every single year. And then here's James Harden kind of suggesting that it's all natural talent. He's just bigger than everybody else. Do you think that Harden's on an island with that critique, or do you think around the league some people do think that it's just sheer size that helps out Giannis?
No, I think Harden is so far on an island. He's about to visit Waiters Island, and he might go hang out with Dion for a while on that one. I've been fortunate enough to cover the NBA draft for almost my entire tenure at Turner, which is approaching 10 years now, and Giannis is going to go down as one of, if not the biggest surprises in the history of the NBA draft. He was picked 15th, and many people, when he was picked 15th, said, "Huh? Who? Why?" And when you saw him get picked at 15th, he was a stick figure. He's not anything what he looks like now, which tells you he's worked on his body. Yeah, he's tall, but if everybody who was approaching 7 feet tall, were to do what Giannis would do, then the league would just be filled with 7-footers, and it's not. And I think that, did you see the dunk Giannis had yesterday in Charlotte? I don't know how many people had the opportunity to watch that game yesterday afternoon on League Pass, but go back and watch the highlights of a 7-footer coming down like a train down the tracks, spinning at the foul line, and still having the presence of mind to be able to score the way he did. This guy is a freak of nature, yes, but he's worked on his body, he's worked on his game, and I think a little bit of the animosity between these two is quite ironic in that the two of them have these championship expectations from us, and certainly both are going to the Hall of Fame already. Like that's already cemented in stone. It's done. But it's kind of ironic that both of them have kind of fallen short of their own expectations. And I don't even say public expectations, their own, because neither of them have gotten out of the conference finals yet. And for Giannis, who's much younger, we accept it. For James Harden, and I should say, yes, he did go to the finals once, but he was a sixth man on a Thunder team his, third year in the league. both of these guys, as number one players on their team, are expected to compete for titles. And both of them this year, it'd be awesome if they actually met there and both of them were able to lead their team to the NBA Finals.
Jared Greenberg, NBA on TNT. Well, that's interesting. So you think the Greek Freak is already in the Hall of Fame? It's a sure shot.
He's won an MVP. I mean, the only guy that's won MVP in NBA history who won't go to the Hall of Fame is Derrick Rose. So, I mean, it's almost like hitting 300 home runs or whatever it is in baseball.
500.
500. Sorry.
Huh. Okay, so that's interesting. So, do you think that the Milwaukee Bucks are leaps and bounds better than everybody else in the East, or can you see them getting pushed, challenged, or tripped up in the Eastern Conference playoffs?
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, they're on this historic tear that I don't even know if we're appreciating right now. They're on pace to become the third team in NBA history to win 70 games. They're not just beating teams; they're beating up on teams. They right now lead the league in number of 20-point wins. They lead the league in number of double-digit wins. They're just so impressive up and down. But yet, there's people like me, and maybe I'm being an idiot here, who's like, oh, there's reason to believe that they could get tripped up in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And what makes this doubly, weird for me is that I don't love anybody else in the East right now. So it's like you have a historic team, yet, and there's no real clear and cut obvious favorite right now or challenger to a favorite to challenge them, and yet we're still like, maybe they won't get there. I think coming into the year, Philadelphia should have been that team. They have enough talent to be that team. We didn't see Toronto being this good after they lost Kawhi, but in fact, statistically and record-wise, they're actually better than they were at this time last year. And for me, maybe it's Boston. Maybe we kind of undervalued the progress and evolution of Boston and into Jayson Tatum now being a legit star. Kemba Walker's a star. Maybe they just have enough. I think it comes back to Milwaukee with, their second star, quote-unquote star, is not a guy that a lot of people believe is a star in Chris Middleton. I mean, heck, he's missed the last couple of games, and they're crushing people by 40 points. I mean, the other night, Milwaukee was up by 51 points, and they didn't have their second-best player. And you say, okay, wow, that means there's a lot of depth on that team. They're really talented. But at the same time, you're like, well, maybe their second-best guy is not all that good because they can do that without him. So I don't know. It's a weird situation out there in the East right now.
Well, figuring out the Sixers, who you said should have been the biggest challengers to the Bucks of this season, has become a cottage industry. What's the fatal flaw of the Sixers? You're up and close to it. What is their fatal flaw?
Honestly, I think it's something that I'll go back to Charles Barkley said over the summer. We did the schedule release show, and that was when on NBA TV he declared the Sixers to be his favorite to come out of the East. And he said, but the weird part about it is this. In every situation, and this goes across the board, and I think it was a really smart comment by Charles, when you go across the board and look at a championship contender, and this probably stands for all of time, not just this year, your question is typically, can the supporting cast raise to the level of the stars and help the whole vehicle travel to the NBA Finals and contend for a title? In Philadelphia, it's kind of backwards. It's, are the stars going to be good enough and available? Are they going to be present and accounted for when the games count most? And listen, I get that the roster construction of Philadelphia is not perfect. Like they lost over the years how much shooting that they have lost, so much floor spacing, which is the old cliche term everybody loves to use this year. Floor spacing that they've lost for Embiid and Simmons, that's not been good. The likes of J.J. Redick or Robert Covington or even Landry Shamet, who they had to trade to get Tobias Harris. Like guys like that would really help. But the fact that Simmons and Embiid have fatal flaws in their own game, in their own availability. I mean, Joel Embiid has not played in the playoff series in his career where he has not missed at least one game. That's a problem, right? Ben Simmons, the three-point shooting is not that big of a deal for me. It's the lack of jump shooting, and it's him not wanting the basketball in the last 2 minutes of the game because he's hesitant to go to the free throw line. Like those are parts of the game that people don't really pay attention to that I think are a bigger issue than not having J.J. Redick who's in his mid-30s, and clearly it's not the same guy he was a couple of years ago, right? Like, we can't be blaming other people. We got to put this on the stars, because stars win games, stars win playoff games, stars win playoff series, and stars win championships.
Jared Greenberg, NBA TNT, NBA on TNT. They're going to have the Sixers and Lakers game tomorrow night. Check them out there. Okay, so here is a question about the next great player of the NBA. There's some really wonderful candidates. We've just seen LeBron go up against two of them, Ja and Zion, over the last couple of days. Luka's been absolutely amazing as well. I want you to just earmark, let's say, these four guys. Who is going to become, if you had to buy stock on, the greatest of them? Is it going to be Zion, Ja Morant, Jayson Tatum, or Luka?
Well, first of all, I'm not very good at buying stock right now.
Okay. Yeah, well, nobody's doing very well right now.
Yeah, it's a sore subject right now. Okay, this is a really tough one. But if I had to buy stock in any one of those four that you gave me, I would go Luka, and it's a slim edge over Zion. And the reason why I go Luka is just the health factor. Now, listen, Luka's had a couple of ankle injuries. Now he's dealing with a thumb injury. But I think the overall consensus on Zion around the league is, if this guy's healthy, he's the next face of the league. That's a big if, right? Like, he's just missed, 60% of his first season in the NBA. That's a problem. We hope that, he gets himself in great shape. We hope that his knees are okay, and he's got the best medical staff in the NBA around him. David Griffin brought Aaron Nelson in from Phoenix, who's world-renowned as the best guy in the NBA. So that'll be a great situation there. But what we know about Luka is he's been able to stay healthy. He is not even in the best shape of his life yet. I mean, he came in basically in just having played basketball year-round, because that's what they do over in Europe. It's just nonstop basketball. There's not as much attention, at least for him. There wasn't as much attention paid to his body. I would take Luka. I think if you have not watched Luka on a night-in, night-out basis, you're missing out on a special treat in the NBA.
I like it. Jared Greenberg joining us from the NBA on TNT. Tomorrow night, watch him and the crew, Sixers and Lakers. They have a lot of fun. They're a great crew. They got a lot of great chemistry. They'll be on Sixers and Lakers tomorrow night. Well, we'll see. Hopefully it's a tearjerker tomorrow night more than This Is Us for Mraz.
Whereas, I mean, this is the biggest surprise for me. I mean, what about The Bachelor? Are you into that too?
No. I don't do reality TV outside of Jersey Shore.
Outside of that, though.
Outside of it. And because and because, by the way, that's not even reality TV. When it's scripted television, whereas, we call that,
But it's grandfathered in from my youth.
Right, from you. How badly did he want to grow up and be in this situation?
Very badly. Same type of abs, too.
If they ever had a Jersey Shore with husky people, I absolutely would have qualified.
All right, Mraz. We'll see. Maybe that reincarnation will come. I hear you're coming back this week.
Gotta have it, Jared.